Welcome to today's episode, where we explore the ideas shaping the future of the AEC industry. Whether you're a surveyor, engineer, project manager, or executive, this is the space for you to get inspired, stay informed, and lead with confidence. Now let's dive in. Today I'm joined by Drew Shaw, the Senior Technical Officer of Entura. So Drew, did you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background in the industry?
Yeah, sure, Joel. I started about 30 years ago, showing my age there. I grew up in Canberra and was studying architecture for first year. The economy was not going so well then, and I had an interest in CAD. And I had a friend who worked at Mornsell, and they offered me a cadetship around when I was 18. And I jumped at that opportunity and took that up. I didn't know anything about engineering or what it was. I sort of was a bit scared with a mathematical component. Doing architects aren't particularly good at maths as compared to engineers. So I started working with Mornsell, and my very first project ever was the feasibility of the high-speed rail link, believe it or not. And we still haven't built that, so between Canberra and Sydney, but that was interesting. And from there, we moved to Cairns, and I worked for Mornsell in Cairns on some really interesting projects, including highway upgrades on Cape York, and even working in Horn Island in the Torres Strait Islands on sewage, providing sewage systems for them. I've worked on a range of projects, a lot of pavement upgrades, similar to what we do in Tasmania these days. On North Queensland, but I've also then we moved back down to Sydney briefly for a few years. Worked on some the M7 project, which was a big AECOM and SMEC joint venture. 40 kilometres of highway, 17 major interchanges, huge Sydney project. And that's where I sort of worked with Phil Campbell on the drainage aspect. Did a couple of years, really loved it. Working out things like pit and pipe, set out, flooded width, inlet capacities, all those sort of things, aquaplaning. So doing all the drainage, so detention basins, working in a team of drainage engineers. Did a couple of extra units at uni just to cover the drainage things off. And then after that, me and my wife had Grace, our daughter, first child, living in a very tiny apartment in Sydney. Cost of housing in Sydney is very expensive. Opened up the map of Australia, looked at it and said, what about this island off the bottom of Australia? And we inquired. Wife was offered a job at the Royal Hobart Hospital, working as in the emergency department. I basically found work easily down here. And I ended up working remotely, and that was way back in 2007. A lot of challenges working remotely back then. It was pre-12D Synergy. I would have liked to have had that, but did that for a year. Young daughter, then we had a son, Hugo, born after that, and 2 children working at home. Found it quite difficult. Wife wasn't working at the time. I ended up working locally with GHD and worked with GHD for several years. On numerous highway projects around Tasmania, upgrades, but also got a lot of travel with GHD. Worked over in Western Australia a lot, and some of my most interesting projects over there was some of the mining sites. So GHD was doing a lot of, GHD Perth this was, doing a lot of, the iron ore price was dropping, so the miners wanted to cut costs out of roads, so I was doing a lot of going site visits and redesigning roads, but reducing what was on offer. And things like cutting out culverts and taking risks, and that were by professional drivers who were happy to do that, and they were closed roads, but they just wanted not to design from OS roads, for example. But also worked on open pit mining and some rail projects. And then after that, I worked for Jacobs here in Hobart for 6 years, and worked on the Monster West Connects project. And that was using 12D Synergy. I was the only one here in Hobart working on that project, and I was working in the drainage side of things there.
I think that was one of the first major projects used that used 12D Synergy. I think you had users from all around Australia and I think Thailand and New Zealand all sort of connecting up. It's the first time we sort of saw that work sharing in action from customers, which was really good.
Yeah, it was, and that was I think it was at the time it was Australia's largest urban renewal project. I think it was 17 billion. That project, big project. People even in South Africa working on it as well, and like you say, all the different. And that worked really well. Very, very challenging. I think there was 17 disciplines in the area I was working on. So coordinating all those different disciplines was quite difficult. And of course, drainage. Everyone gets frustrated by drainage. It goes through everything, retaining walls, dive portals, ITS people. You know, it's basically managing all that, those different disciplines to make sure that we get a good project in the end. It was,
Oh, it's a great project. It's now open. Yeah, there are times where driving through there, it opens up and it's like 5 or 6 lanes across. Like, this is a massive tunnel. Like, it's a huge project. So, and then they'll be continuing up through Rozelle through to North Sydney. So it's going to continue on. So just a massive piece of infrastructure. So it's good to see it. Yeah, right from the start through to construction. It's good to see.
Yeah, it was definitely a challenging project, but enjoyable. And then after working on that, straight after working on that, I was working on the west coast in Tassie on a 3 kilometre bit of pavement highway upgrade, but on very steep terrain. The contrast from WestConnex to myself, a project manager, and 1 or 2 other people was just very contrasting. And site visits in the middle of Tasmania with surveyors, with leeches and stuff on people's legs and stuff was quite a big change after that. So that's a bit of a background about myself. Yeah,
it's quite a lot, and then it brings us, I guess, to the present day where you're now working for Entura. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Entura?
Yeah, so I've been working for Entura for 5 years. I saw an ad in the paper about a 12D designer, renewable energy space, which sort of took my appeal. And
seems like you had experience at that point of everything else. So why not renewables?
And of course I was quite aware even 5 years ago. We're all aware of the climate crisis and global warming. And also, I was also familiar that living in Hobart, you cannot live in Hobart and not know about Hydro Tasmania. It's an iconic Tasmanian brand. And I thought, well, why not? I'll apply for that. Interviewed for the job, and got the job, and not knowing anything about renewables. But I was quite confident I could, my 12D background, I could bring something to Entura and help in that side of things. And I've worked on a whole lot of interesting projects at Entura that I wouldn't get at most other companies. So
And now there's a few entities here. There's Tas Hydro, Entura. Do you just want to explain how they're all connected for those that don't know?
Yeah, so Hydro Tasmania are the largest renewable energy company in Australia. So they manage a massive portfolio of dams, hydropower assets, wind, and we've got some battery storage as well. So Entura are the consulting arm of Hydro Tasmania, and Entura at the moment have around about 300 staff, and they're very diverse in team. So there's a primary and secondary electrical team, there's a hydropower team, there's a dams and geotech team. There's some other teams, there's mechanical and other things that I'm involved in, dispatchable renewables. So there's some really interesting disciplines here. And Momentum are the other third component of the Hydro Tasmania group. So Hydro Tasmania, Entura consulting arm, and you've got Momentum, and they're the retail arm of Hydro Tasmania. So they basically do the billings and manage on the main. They're most, because Hydro Tasmania export energy into the national energy market down the east coast of Australia. And I believe we've got around about 400,000 customers. So Momentum are the retail arm of Hydro Tasmania.
So they're billing the end consumer for the power that's created here in Tasmania.
That's right, yes.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And that was certainly one thing that was of great interest, is just that multidisciplinary approach. It seems like you've got every discipline working on this, where for your average road project, you're probably only interfacing with a couple of other ones. So is that a challenge here, working in Entura?
It is a challenge because you don't know what you don't know, and quite often you work in your team and you understand your project or what, but you won't know, like dispatchable renewables. I don't really know what they do, but occasionally I get to go and do some civil work on their projects, or like I've just recently done a civil site with detention basins and stuff, and road accesses and stuff for battery storage in South Australia that Entura are working on. And Entura, worth mentioning, they do work across the globe, and we've got some of the best dams engineers in the world who work here. So yeah, they're definitely interesting. We've got a lot of professionals, and the electrical space is some amazing electrical engineers who bring in work that make our jobs interesting, but also improve our climate crisis and trying to solve our energy problems that we've got.
Yeah, Tas Hydro is a huge organisation as well. I think it was 1,300 staff and produced powering homes. Was it 900,000 homes? I think it was. So it's a huge, renewable output.
Yeah, no, it is. For many people outside Tasmania don't realise that. Tasmania is a renewable energy state and has been for a long time. It's over 100 years old, Hydro Tasmania, and they've been building assets for decades. We haven't built a whole lot. Well, Hydro Tasmania haven't built a whole lot till recently, and there's been a real surge in rebuilding. What was known previously as Battery of the Nation, our major projects. Doing some big hydropower upgrades. So we've got Tarraleah, which is a big project we've just been working on the last couple of years, $1 billion or so plus, don't quote me on that, but it's big for Tasmania.
Yeah. Well, big for anywhere, $1 billion is big, yeah.
Yeah, so that was, and we've also got Sathana off the back of that, which I know a little bit less about because we're getting into that now, and that's a pumped hydro. So that's circulating the water around to generate electricity. And the goal of that is to connected to Marinus Link, which most people would have heard of on the news. The federal government is spending about $3 billion to provide a second link across Tasmania called Marinus Link. This is complementary to the Bass Link, and that's to then export some of the amazing resources we've got in Tasmania. We're blessed with topography, high rainfall on the west coast of Tasmania, and then convert that hydropower energy into energy that we can pump into the national energy market, basically help with shutting down, when coal power fire stations have to go offline. Hopefully we'll be a part, it won't solve all of it, but it'll be a part of the national energy market.
I think they had targets, was it 200% renewables? Which,
that's right, I think their goal is 200% renewable. Someone's done some work on that and calculated that Tasmania's got that potential. So Hydro Tasmania are definitely on a real spending space of upgrading and building new infrastructure to try and reach that potential. So there's a lot of work being done down here. So it's a really exciting time to be part of that renewable energy industry, I suppose.
Yeah. And what's the biggest challenge in this project? It seems like you'd have quite a few.
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges, and I mean, it's on such a big project. I mean, I can't speak for all the things, but I've been personally involved in the Tarraleah Power Station. Really challenging site. So the power station itself is $100 million, just the building. So I've been doing all the civil design around that, all the construction staging. It's a very constrained site. It's in a geological slip area. So I've done different options, several construction staging for each option, coordinating the different models and the flow of those models and how they interconnect into federated models. But it's also the engineering challenge of designing this. It's quite interesting because things change, where they've got pen stocks, the depth of the power station, it moves up and down, how you build something that's wedged between a river and mountains or hillside with a known slip. It's been really interesting. The geology alone has been a challenge, designing infrastructure and tunnels, those sort of things. But there's been a lot of other people working on things like Lake King William, which is currently being built right now. So I think they've almost pretty much finished the intake tunnel, and they've already started tunnelling from Lake King William. But it's the projects with the intake, it takes water in, for people that don't know, into a portal. It goes down to an approach channel into an intake. then goes into a bit of a tunnel underneath a hill, connects into an overland pipe. So where we don't need a tunnel, it goes into a pipeline overland because it's cheaper than tunnelling. And then it goes down into another long tunnel, goes kilometres and goes hundreds of metres into the underground. I think it's going through Jurassic dolerite, so we're quite blessed with the rock formation, Tasmania, so that will hopefully keep the cost down for the taxpayer in building this project.
I was going to say, like, how big are these tunnels? I imagine they're massive.
Well, yeah, they are. They're huge. You can drive a car down them, that sort of thing. But it's the overland pipe. I think it's, and I might get in trouble here, but I think it's about 4 metres or something in diameter. They're big, and the tunnels are similar size. There's different techniques going through the different geology of how they build it, drill and blast and tunnel boring machines. So there's different approaches to that. I'm no expert in that, but we're lucky because we've got all the. If we don't have the experts in Entura, we will find the experts around the globe to help us out. The power station, we've had help from people in France and EDF in France who are experts in Europe, and we tap into the people we need and the resources we need to get the job done.
You've also got offices in the mainland and India and around the world. It's not just a Tasmanian operation.
And it's expanding on. We've got people working in. I work personally with a lady who works who's a hydropower expert in Perth. So she is living in Perth. We've got people in Adelaide and an Adelaide office. We've got a Melbourne office. Actually, we've got a lot of staff in Melbourne. Melbourne's quite big, and Momentum have got an office there. Retailing, but we've got people working around the country and across the globe, and also the way people work these days, they've got conferences to go to and they might be working. So we're definitely pretty flexible company. I really enjoy working here because of the flexibility that Entura provides its staff as well.
Yeah, and I imagine with Australia trying to hit renewable targets and cleaning up the economy, are these projects just the start of many more similar projects?
Yes, they definitely are, because renewables, the clients are obviously looking for people who can do this work. So firms like Entura, which have got all these experts, I suspect it's going to be an increasing demand. And I've noticed a lot of the unis are now putting in things like renewable energy degrees. So I think it's going to be increase in workload, not a decrease. But even our own in here in Tasmania, Hydro Tasmania, when you've had assets sitting around for decades, they need upgrading. So my team that I work in now, the Dams and Geotech, they do dam safety reviews to assess the risk of those dams, to ensure there's not failure. Dam failure is obviously catastrophic.
It doesn't get much worse.
It doesn't get much worse than dam failures. So it can be loss of life. It can be that serious. So the team I work with do those assessments, and people, they do them across Australia and overseas. They will assess the dams. And if we need an upgrade, that's where the design might come into. If they don't, obviously they've reviewed it and they don't need an upgrade. But if you do, we might do a widening like you would do on a road widening, where you'd increase the crest height. You might raise it because you need to get a higher flood immunity. You might need more storage, so you have a dam raising, or you might just need to widen it to ensure that there's no leakage through the dam site, because they need to be impermeable.
So it sounds like there's a lot of work on now and into the future for Entura.
Yeah, I would say that is the case, and there's also Queensland, obviously looking into hydropower projects too. So I'm not sure there, but I suspect there's more work potentially up in Queensland and places, and it's not just Tasmania, but Tasmania obviously a hydropower state.
And I guess Tasmania is a relatively small market. Is it challenging finding the right skills? There'll be a lot of different specialised skills you need to do all these projects. Is that a challenge for Entura?
Yeah, I believe it is. So we do market across Australia. We definitely don't just look at Tasmania in isolation because, like you say, it's a small place. Having said that, we do market Tasmania because it is just a nice place to live. I personally lived here. I'm not from Tasmania. I'm a ring-in from the mainland. So,
and you've been here a little while now.
I've been here for about 16 years.
But still a ring-in.
Still a ring-in. I'll never be a true Tasmanian, but I can accept that. That's fine. But I enjoy it. You work from 8:30 to 5. You work overtime when you have to, but I like my weekends. I enjoy cycling. I mountain bike and I ride bikes and enjoy the outdoors, and you definitely get that. And I've lived in other big cities. I've lived in London and Sydney, and it's just a nice place to live, Hobart. So yeah.
Yeah, if you like the outdoors, particularly mountain biking around here, it'd be fantastic.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
Good. And a good quality of life for raising a family as well.
Yeah, no, raising kids here, it's good. The housing market has gone up here a lot, but compared to some other places, it's still quite affordable. It's a growing city. We've seen a lot of. One thing I have noticed in the last 16 years since moving here, when we first got here, it was quite an old demographic, but we've seen a lot of younger people. I mean, I might be just getting older myself, of course, but we're seeing more and more young people. Go into the cafes and you find out the person's moved down here from Melbourne, young family. They ran a cafe in Melbourne, but now they're enjoying the Tasmanian lifestyle, and they've moved down here for the same reasons that my wife and I did 16 years ago.
Yeah, no, it's certainly a lot more trendy here. There's a lot more cafes, and it is a nice place to escape the hustle and bustle, right? Like that's
absolutely
a big selling point of Tasmania. What was the tagline?
Come down for air. Yeah, basically you can. It is a lovely place to live, and you can get out in nature very quickly. Not bragging here, but I could be working from home and go for a lunchtime mountain bike ride around some local trails, head back home, be back, open up 12, get back into a 12D synergy, work away, no one will know, and I've knocked out an hour of mountain biking in my lunchtime. It's just awesome,
That's a great benefit.
Yeah.
So I guess Entura is a key part for the renewable strategy. What kind of renewables are covered by Entura?
Yeah, so hydropower is one of the big ones, but dams. So a lot of dams as well, which hydropower have got a lot of dam aspect as part of dams. Mm-hmm. So things like, but hydropower is quite complex because it's got tunnelling, it's quite often power stations, it's got canals and spillways and those sort of things. There's a lot of components that make up hydropower and dam projects, which I didn't know about. I'm no expert in, but it's interesting modelling and designing some of those things. But there's a lot of disciplines that go into it. Obviously, things like CFD modelling on spillways. Some of these spillways, worked on one in Indonesia, and it had hundreds of cumecs going down it in a certain design storm, which is unbelievable. Coming from a highways drainage where you're talking litres a second or a few cumecs here and there to spillways with hundreds of cumecs, quite fascinating. But but there's other areas that we do, dispatchable renewables. I'd love to know more about that myself, but that's an area that Entura are apparently really good at. Battery storage, but there's also all the transmission lines that actually getting the electricity, and that's how electrical team works on those sorts of projects. But there's also things like electrical switch yards, and there's a big electrical component, obviously, by the nature of it. Those sorts of things.
I think there's another benefit of renewables too, is that it's really raised the profile of our industry. Renewables is quite sexy. People are thinking about it. It's a real challenge that our industry is quite grey. There's a lot of baby boomers that are retiring, and then there's more work and more challenges coming up than ever before. But so many people, such as yourself, when you were younger, didn't know about this sector. So the more awareness we can have about the civil engineering industry, it's got some unique challenges. We need more people in this space in the future, and renewables, I think, is a good way of getting the message out that this is a career path for people in the future. So I guess if you were talking to someone that had heard about civil engineering and renewables, what would you say are some of the benefits of working in this industry?
Yeah, so I think from my point of view, it's a different opportunity outside the transport sector. I've obviously spent most of my career in the transport sector, and I've enjoyed it. But as you age, you'd like to try different things, and I like a challenge, so I like to work on different projects, and to learn about those projects, but also provide some skills from other sectors into this sector where possible. So if I find ways of doing things that we potentially might have done better in the transport sector, transferring those skills, bringing those skills across into the renewables. But I do think there is potential for more people to move into these fields in the future, because just by the nature of it, there's going to be more projects built. Things like solar farms is the other thing, those sort of projects. But transmission, Australia have got a lot of work to do. We keep on hearing it in the news and the media that the government we've obviously got climate targets and to meet. We'll be shutting down coal plants and those sort of the fossil fuel industry, and the gas industry is another one. So so there's definitely going to be a big growth for jobs, I would have thought, in this space. So yeah.
I guess one of the reasons for you adopting 12D Synergy was the ISO 19650 capabilities information management. Do you want to talk us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so with fragmentation of so Hydro hasn't built a lot of things for decades. And Entura work in such a diverse, all the things we've covered, renewable space. We needed to sort of basically get our systems into a single source of truth and start to manage and organise our data better. So 12D Synergy's been a big help in doing that, and we're still got a lot of work to do, but I feel like we're on the right track now. I think we're we've broken down a lot of our components, particularly in hydropower and dams, where we've worked them out with the ISO naming, and we've broken down, and there's a lot of assets that I've even have to talk to numerous people to learn about them and put them into our system. And things are always changing, but we've got other teams, some of the dispatchable team I haven't got to. I'd love to get into, talk to them. The electrical team, we're starting to get Natalie on board and help me out with the electrical team and what components make up some of these electrical projects and the switch yards and the things that I don't know about. So we've it's exciting, and I think we're definitely on the right track now. I feel, and with the workflows, and also the potential to connect to other systems, because Hydro have got a lot of systems, and we've got a lot of diverse. We've got a lot of people in the field in power stations, on dam sites, field testing, geologists. There's a broad array of jobs here. It's quite interesting. So
yeah, and it's just that diversity of different projects, working with different teams. Like a lot of people can get, especially in larger organisations, pigeonholed into, you're doing major highway projects and you do that sort of for most of your career. But it sounds like, you get a real diversity in workload here, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's right, and that's why I enjoy working here. You could cross into different teams when there's a need. Like a couple of weeks ago, I was working with the electrical team on the battery storage site. Didn't know much about it, but obviously could just transferable skills from civil. They needed to design the sites and get all that sort of stuff working, so we could do that in-house with civil designers road designers can do that work. So and drainage designers, from the transport sector can definitely do those sort of projects. But even things like dam upgrades with different filter zones and modelling those and better than we ever have before, and transferring the data through 12D Synergy to collaborate better and make better decisions, faster decisions, have more data, and eventually in the future, better decision making. And that's where the digital engineering stuff's coming in, right? Where we get more information, even things like satellite imagery and all these different bits of information, and we provide better decision making. Obviously another thing that Hydro Tasmania, it works in next to adjacent World Heritage areas. Along rivers, so when if we're creating a tunnel portal, it's preventing acid mine drainage entering the river system. So environmental monitoring and capturing data. We've got sensors on power stations, and environmental teams are putting monitoring data. So in the future, I see that some of that data comes back in, and we're using that data better. And that's where I suppose it eventually heads into digital twins, for power stations, so we can make smarter decisions.
And so all that monitoring is using satellite data, is that?
Yeah, some of it's hard stand, some of it's satellite. So the environmental team, would be using some satellite data and imagery. But there's also actual monitoring equipment out on site. So
you're talking about creating a lot of digital assets. How does that help with the decision-making process, especially downstream for Tas Hydro? Yeah, so basically with all that ISO 19650 set up, we've created a lot of information on there, and we're adding to it. So we constantly talk to Hydro Tasmania about what information they want for their assets, and it's always an evolving beast. So we've
getting more and more information. But the idea behind that is to gather as much information that the asset owner wants, which is Hydro Tasmania, provide them that information so that they can then start making smart decisions with that information to things like when they need to upgrade an asset, how they're going to build that asset, those sort of decision making, what impact does that asset have on the environment. Even things like the aquatic life of a river. Having all that information allows Hydro Tasmania in its different teams to make better decisions about their assets and how they manage them.
And walking around your office, it seems relatively casual here at Entura. It seems like a good place to be working.
Yeah, it's definitely, you don't see too many people in suits or ties here. It's quite casual. There's a lot of people also going out in the field, so you see a lot of high-vis around the office, like you would on maybe a joint venture project on the mainland, design and construct project. So it's very, very casual. It is Tasmania too, so the weather can change, so jackets on, jackets off all the time is... Yeah.
And I guess for someone watching this video thinking, I wouldn't mind a sea change and come down and join Entura, I guess what would you say to them about working here in Tasmania and specifically Entura?
Yeah, so I couldn't recommend definitely Tasmania as a place to live. It's an easy city to get around, and Entura, if you're interested in the renewable energy space, definitely check out our web pages for jobs, and they're on the Hydro Tasmania site. And it might not be an Entura job, but it could be a Hydro Tasmania. We all are part of the Hydro Tasmania group, and there's a diverse range of jobs, like I say. So you might not do the traditional just civil design or something. Your partner could be something completely different, and we might have a job. I couldn't even cover all the jobs that we've got here. So definitely worth checking that Hydro Tasmania website out. Yeah.
If you've enjoyed the conversation, make sure you follow, subscribe, and share the show with your colleagues. For more insights and resources, visit our website.